3rd day of May, to Carlisle there did come a kind courteous child that knew much of wisdom. A kirtle and a mantle his child had upon, with brooches and rings full richly bedone. He had a suit of silk about his middle drawn, without he knew of courtesy he thought it much shame. God speed thee, King Arthur, sitting at thy meat, and the goodly Queen Guinevere I cannot her forget. I tell you, lords, in this hall I ask you all to heed, except you be the surer is you for to dread. He plucked out of his poker and longer would not dwell. He pulled forth a pretty mantle between 2 nutshells. Have thou here, King Arthur, have thou here of me? Give it to thy comely queen, it's shapen already. It never shall become that wife that hath once done amiss. Then every knight in the king's court began to care for his. Forth came Dame Guinevere, to the mantle she hied. The lady she was newfangled, but yet she was afraid. When she had ta'en the mantle, she stood as she'd been a maid. 'Twas from the top to the toe, as shears had it shred. One while was it ghoul, another while was it green, another while was it wadded, till it did her beseem. Another while was it black, and bore the worst hue. By my troth, quoth King Arthur, I think thou be not true. She threw down the mantle that bright was of blee, fast with a rod red to her chamber did she flee. She cursed the weaver and the walker that cloth that had wrought, and bade a vengeance on his crown that hither hath it brought. I'd rather be in a wood under a green tree than in King Arthur's court, shame it for to be. Then Kay called forth his lady and bade her come near. Says, Madam, an thou be guilty, I pray thee hold thee there. Forth came his lady shortly and anon, boldly to the mantle, then is she gone. When she had ta'en the mantle and cast it her about, then was she bare before all the rout. Then every knight that was in the king's court talked, laughed, and shouted full oft at that sport. She threw down the mantle that bright was of blee, fast with a red rod to her chamber did she flee. Forth came an old knight, pattering o'er a creed, and he proffered to this little boy 20 marks to his meed, and all the time of the Christmas willingly to feed, for why this mantle might do his wife some need. When she had ta'en the mantle of cloth that was made, she had no more left on her but a tassel and a thread. Then every knight in the king's court bad evil might she speed. She threw down the mantle that bright was of blee, and fast with a red rod to her chamber did she flee. Craddock called forth his lady and bade her come in. Said, win this mantle, lady, with a little din. Win this mantle, lady, and it shall be thine, if thou never did amiss since thou wast mine. So forth came Craddock's lady shortly and anon, but boldly to the mantle, then is she gone. When she had ta'en the mantle and cast it her about, up at her great toe it began to crinkle and krout. She said, bow down, mantle, and shame me not for nought. Once I did amiss, I tell you certainly, when I kissed Craddock's mouth under a green tree, when I kissed Craddock's mouth before he married me. When she had her shriven and her sins she had told, the mantle stood about her right as she wold, seemly of colour, glittering like gold. Then every knight in Arthur's court did her behold. Then spake Dame Guinevere to Arthur our king, she hath ta'en yonder mantle, not with right but with wrong. See you not yonder woman that maketh herself so clean? I've seen ta'en out of her bed of men 15. Priests, clerks, and wedded men from her be dean, yet she taketh the mantle and maketh herself clean. Then spake the little boy that kept the mantle in hold, says, King, chasten thy wife, of her words she is too bold. She is a bitch and a witch and a whore bold. King, in thine own hall thou art a cuckold. The little boy stood looking out a door, and there as he was looking he was ware of a wild boar. He was ware of a wild boar, would have worried a man. He pulled forth a wood knife, fast thither that he ran. He brought in the boar's head and quitted him like a man. He brought in the boar's head and was wondrous bold. He said there was never a cuckold's knife carve it that could. Some rubbed their knives upon a whetstone, some threw them under the table, some said they had none. King Arthur and the child stood looking upon them, all their knives' edges turned back again. Craddock had a little knife of iron and of steel, he brittled the boar's head, wondrous wheel, that every knight in the king's court had a morsel. The little boy had a horn of red gold that rung, he said there was no cuckold shall drink of my horn, but he should it shed either behind or before. Some shed on their shoulder and some on their knee, he that could not hit his mouth put it in his ear, and he that was a cuckold every man might him see. So Craddock won the horn and the boar's head, his lady won the mantle unto her meed. Every such a lovely lady, God send her well to speed.